So I'm here with my friend Eric Martz, who has done a lot of work over the years advising small business owners on how best to execute their strategies. And one of the most important strategies that Eric and I've talked a little bit about in the past involves the strategy to exit their businesses. What kind of plans do they have in place? And Eric's provided some great resources on LinkedIn, giving some of the demographic information. The very high percentage of business owners today turning 65, many of whom have not done a very good job yet of planning their strategy. So one of the things we've been talking about is the role that bankers can and should play in helping business owners really come to a good spot here. So I'm curious, Eric, when you think about the kinds of questions that bankers should be asking of their small business customers today. Now, this is assuming that they know the business reasonably well. They may know the individual pretty well, but what specific kinds of questions should they be asking?
That's a very good question. The bankers do play a critical role in the success or failure of their business owning customers, and they need to be, as I say, playing down the chessboard, meaning not looking at the next quarter. They need to be focused 2 to 3, 4, 5 years in the future, and helping those business owners to transition and actually sell their business, recapture their invested capital. So I think bankers need to have a few targeted questions that they ask, not just once, but a number of times in working with their customer. And the first one I would suggest is, do you have a business that doesn't need you in order to be successful? A friend of mine, Mike Finger, says the most significant consideration for a business owner is that they've created a saleable business. Second question might be, have you systematized your business? Meaning, have you provided process, procedures, and protocols, and you've created readiness and transferability, because those are the two major drivers or killers of business value. Third area is operating with key performance indicators in a way that you can monitor your business performance. If you don't know where you are, you can't get to where you need to be. And then three remaining questions: what's your retirement or exit plan? Have you done, what have you done to begin the process? And then the really big one is, what happens when you're not here tomorrow? Just like those in the path of a killer tsunami, planning for your exit now is better than waiting. I think that it's common sense that those who choose not to invest in their firms and give prospective buyers an opportunity for material growth after acquisition will experience lower valuations. And that's absolutely critical given where we are in the economy today. A business that would have traded at a multiple of 3 or 4 just 2 months ago may be worth half of that.
Yeah, which is really important. Yeah, really important. So one of the things that I guess I think about with business owners is not so much when there's a specific time when you should be asking these questions. You raised the point of you should be asking these questions as you get to know a business. I mean, these are not bad questions when you're talking to a prospect to get a sense for what's going on. One of the things that I've concluded is that a lot of times bankers are surprised when they're prospecting a business and they discover that this is really the first time a banker has ever asked questions about exit strategies. You'd sort of assume that whoever the current banker is would have done that, but that's not always been the case. And so these are questions that might actually differentiate a banker and might be focusing in on issues that are really very relevant to the business owner. And certainly today, as this uncertain economy that we're facing is perhaps giving them a little more time to think about what they want to do over the long haul.
Yeah, I've talked to a number of bankers that say, yeah, I've asked that question, but have you asked it continually as you meet with the customer? Because really the issue is not the banker getting that information, it's the business owner registering that there's a problem ahead. And the answer can change from time to time, and it certainly will when bankers talk to their customers today versus having talked to them a year ago.
So one of the things that I've observed is that sometimes bankers are a little reluctant to get into discussions about what the exit strategy is. I'm not sure they should be, but if they started asking people questions like, so where do you see yourself at some point down the road? Maybe you push it out there 5 years or 10 years. Depending upon the answer to that very sort of curious question, you might get some ideas about how quickly you have to move. If you're talking to a 40-year-old dentist, for example, the answer might look a little different than if you're talking to a 62-year-old dentist. But the idea that this is a question that helps your customer think through some issues that are on the horizon. Certainly if somebody says, I expect to be retired and playing with my grandchildren in 5 years. So that would spark the question. So talk to me a little bit about what steps you've taken, the kind of questions that you've highlighted for people. To me, that's sort of a natural progression, and it ties together the business and the personal needs that business owners might have. So when you think about, assume that the business owner is at least interested in going forward and gives the banker that kind of signal, what would be the next steps that a banker could take to help a business owner progress here? I assume some of it has to do with helping the business owner circle up the right team of advisors.
Good question. Another friend of mine, John Deeney, said that selling your company is your financial Super Bowl. So you want to have the best team possible on the field. And, the commercial banker is the guy that's driving all of the relationships, so that, if they've involved folks that hamper success, they ultimately lose. Because the customer loses confidence in them. But I think the banker needs to be obviously a key part of that success team, as I call it. But they need to bring in other professionals, and they really do need to be folks with a specific expertise in helping business owners sell their business. Because there are a number of different types of accountants, a number of different types of attorneys, but the business owner that's in the process of preparing for sale needs an estate attorney, a business attorney, and an accountant and a tax specialist, wealth manager, a consultant, and the consultant, in my mind, needs to be proficient as an execution team leader, somebody that holds everybody accountable and makes sure that everything gets accomplished in a timely manner. The team should have an insurance advisor, a business valuation appraiser, and a couple areas that possibly get overlooked more frequently than you would expect: key employees and board members, and then ultimately the spouse. But I think the process can be driven by something that I learned when I was in the Army. We were taught backward planning as staff officers. So the accountant, the banker should be driving the conversation around when do you expect or when do you want to retire, and then help the business owner create a backward plan with the major hurdles that have to be accomplished and who needs to be involved in order to successfully exit the business.
I think that's a great summary, and it really does make it important, again, for people who are trying to assist business owners to really develop their own network, develop their expertise, and also get comfortable asking the kinds of questions that'll make it easier for a successful transition. So I appreciate the time, Eric. Thanks very much for spending it with us today.
Thank you, Ned.